tere! Palun vabandusega hakkan rääkima inglise keeles, sest see minu jaoks on kergem sellest teemast. Okei, kas kõik on kohal? Tundub, et nii, jah. Okei, paar sõnat minust. Selgelt tegelen automatiseerimisega tegelen juba 5 aastat, praegu töötan Skype'is. Rohkem infot ei ole vaja. I was asked to make a presentation about test automation, and I thought that I won't talk about how Selenium is good or bad, that you need to do the test automation, that it can help you with development and stuff. There's lots of information in the internet. So I thought that maybe I can share my experience and my thoughts about how can you make like so-called perfect test automation framework. Because, for example, Selenium itself doesn't solve your problem. You need to make a framework so that it will do the stuff for you. So, this is my own opinion. Doesn't reflect anything with the company where I work. So, first of all, why do we need the framework? Why do we need to make a custom framework? Because yet I haven't seen the normal software that can solve my problems in everyday work that I do. So, I know. You can try to use different kind of software, but I never saw anything that would suit me. So, who is using the custom frameworks? Well, Skype does. The Yandex, this is the biggest search provider in Russia, kind of big company, and also the Google. Those are the names of the frameworks. In the end, I will give the links. First of all, when you need to solve your problem with everyday life, you have to choose the tool that will interact with either the browser or the web Windows client or the Mac client or whatever. So first of all, just choose the tool. From my personal experience, I would say that choose the open source, because the paid products are usually limited and doesn't give you much flexibility. So, by the way, how much testers do you have here? Can you raise the hands who do the... Okay, kind of what? And who is doing the automation? Okay. So, every test case should be executed on some environment. So, you either choose the Windows or Linux or the Mac. Every test case, well, it can be executed locally, but in an ideal world, you should have a solution that would be executed 24/7 every time on, constantly on the server side. So here you have to think of a solution that would give you the flexibility of scaling to use many servers, not just one, but 10 or hundreds. So you have to think about the solution that could solve your problem in this. So once again, when you will be building the framework, you think about that it's not only on the one server, but you can just easily add more servers to be able to execute more test cases at a time. Also, if you have a big company, if you work in a big company, you have different projects, and it's crucial that the framework itself is not connected to some specific project. It should be universal and can be used by different teams. So the scripting, for scripting I would recommend to use some simple language that doesn't require like much knowledge, like Python or Ruby. It's, for example, Python is very easy to, I don't know, just sit down, read for one day the manual, how it's the basic rules, and you can start scripting. In comparison to Java, where you have to know lots of things. Yeah, and when you're building the test cases and test suites, it's always a good point to reuse your code and use fixtures, like upload the test data into the database and then reuse it in the different cases. So it's like a pre-setup, for example. So, every framework should have a, every test case should be saved, and we should get, we should see this result easily. I would recommend, if you're making test cases, save the results into the database, and then just make a web page so that every developer, every manager can see it. So the results are transparent as possible. One more thing, the continuous integration. Does anyone know, who doesn't know what this continuous integration is? Doesn't know. Okay, so, well, in a few words, so developers just commit their code into the SVN or CVS, the download is being downloaded and compiled. And you have unit tests that constantly, that run constantly, and the results are displayed. So constant commit and constant builds and constant tests. So your system is being like tested and tested in every second. At the moment I'm talking about not the unit tests but the functional tests. When, for example, you commit some code to, let's say, payments, the PayPal, and you can integrate your frameworks so that it will notice that there was a commit to this specific module, and the framework itself should execute the PayPal-related test cases. This is very good because it gives a faster response to the developer. Did I break something or not? Maybe unit test didn't find things. The mistakes. Also, very good feature would be if your test cases are running constantly on the test environment or on the live, to be able to send notifications to the developers or testers if some module is crashing. I don't know how about you, but I often have a problem that I see some exception in the application logs, but I don't know exactly what test case triggered it. So it takes much time to find the cause of it and then reproduce it. So when you're making test cases, it's highly recommended that you save the artifact, for example, the user, the credit card number or some kind of order ID, and then link it to the test case. So that when you have an exception, you will have something to be able to find the test case that triggered this problem. By the way, if anyone has any questions, you can ask instantly, without waiting. So, test case prioritization. For example, you have test cases that needs to be triggered more often, and or triggered when you deploy, for example, into the QA environment from the development environment. You want some test cases to be run first to get some quick results. So test case prioritization is also good feature that you should bear in mind when you build your framework. So this, for example, a schema or data flow that shows how the framework can interact, to function. So we have a SVN where we keep all the test code, the test cases. Test cases, the code is updated in the execution to the execution server, and the execution server asks database which test should I run and against which environment, and then again uploads the test results into the DB. And here we have just a web server that displays the results that were executed. This is a very simple schema that actually we use in Skype. So for example, for web testing, you can construct a test executor that will make a virtual desktop inside Linux. So basically, you usually have a Linux with just a shell, just a console, without any displays. But you have an ability to make a virtual desktop to be able to run Firefox there, for example. Well, we don't have Internet Explorer on the Linux. So here we set up the environment, run the Selenium remote control, and then trigger the test case process, which will interact with the browser, and then everything will be executed in the virtual display. In the Linux, it's called EXFB. X is for virtual framework buffer. So here you can have one server and many displays with executions. I know you've had this problem if you are doing automation. So for example, in Skype, we do the coding in Python. All the scripts, we use SVN as for storing the test case code. So in DB, we store all the logic of which test case should be executed against which environment. And the web interface for displaying the results, written in PHP and using Apache. So as you can see, everything is free. We don't use any commercial solutions for this. Execution server is Debian. We have 2 of them. And execution tools is Selenium remote control, Firefox, and Python. So that's just an example of tools that we use for making our own custom solution. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the source codes, but it's not hard to make one. The framework itself. Just bear in mind the common rules.
Is this for testing Linux?
No, that's for testing web projects. Yeah, I'm myself in the team which is responsible for payments and stuff.
So you let them know how to provide?
My team, yes. Well, interaction with we have a Skype account. I know if anyone ever paid us money. So if anyone paid us money, then you would go to the web interface, select payment method, blah 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 stuff.
What language is the code you're testing originally? The test code is in Python.
Wait, I finished. So one thing is the web interface, other is the APIs and DB code. So we have one is web, other is API, and the third is DB functionality which we test. Everything is in the one framework, but some test cases depend on the browser, other ones are not. Okay, so your question was?
What language is the code written in that you're testing?
Well, web interface is Apache, the DB is Postgres.
But I mean the actual software you're testing, the actual web project you're testing, this PayPal system.
Well, PayPal is just our partner.
No, the code you're testing.
When you're checking out something to test, what is this language you're checking?
Source code.
So source code of the Skype, you mean? Well, okay. The web project itself is PHP. PHP plus lots of DB logic.
Okay.
Okay, so we have two Debians. The cron tab to constantly SVN up, and approximately 50 threads constantly working, 50 test executions using that EXW. So Selenium 2nd, Firefox 3, and Python 2.7.
Is there any reason why you prefer Selenium RC over Firebutter or Butter, for example?
Well, that's just my opinion. Selenium, I'm just used to it. I'm working for 5 years already, and it's very flexible. Butter, maybe also, I don't know. Haven't got much. Didn't work with it. But you depend. That's only my opinion. You depend. You can choose whatever you like. I'm just saying that how we did it.
But here the Firefox 3.x, is the Selenium still not supporting the Firefox 4, or?
Well, it's supporting, but on the server side, we did not update it to the fourth one yet.
Okay.
Stable is good. Stable results. Stable. Yeah, I would. Well, come on. This framework is also evolving. One problem that I see is that we don't cover with the Internet Explorer, which lots of users in the world use. So one more thing would be to have Windows servers also, but that's also the budget, and that's something that we will do in the future.
Why do you need cron tab? What do you do?
It's constantly looking for updates in the SVN. Just SVN up.
So you don't have any hooks on SVN?
No.
Trigger. Okay, so.
Well, it's simple solution, come on. Check for each minute for SVN up, and if you get something, then you parse, and then all the test case structure will be uploaded into the database. And database itself, the executor just asks database, okay, I'm that executor, I have this source code, what should I test? And it returns the test case name, and then it executes, and then uploads the results back to database. So this is the real example of how our test code is looking. We have a standard of how we annotate our test cases. So first goes the name of the test case that will be shown in the web interface, then the developable, the priority, and the case itself. And here, nothing special, just different methods: create customer, purchase with credit card, purchase one more time with different card, purchase, start create purchase, and then see that we use then by default we have the second card displayed already. So very simple test cases. This is the ideal world. That every call is just some micro action. So scenario. So and this is the results. So here you see the name, which was the first line. Here is the case. Here is the file function, the trunk, or we have different versions. For example, if we want to test against, well, we have the development and the test environment. The test environment should be the same as in live. So if we have something broken in live, then we go to the test environment. So developer status, and this is the recent results. And the artifacts. Artifacts are those unique identifiers. When you have an exception in the application logs, by those usernames we can find a test case which was executed. So this transfers into this. And we also have different environments and the results. Statistics. Well, this is something that can be done, I know, in a couple of days. This web interface, it's nothing special. So when some fuck up comes, you see the exception very easily. There is the plus button. And yeah, this is the different test cases, and you can see the statistics in this folder. Also have the logs, which have also the screenshots and the Python code, I mean the debug information. So this also, when you want to search for the test case, for example, exception came in the application, type here artifact search, and it gives you that the test case which triggered that exception to the application log. And also this one, I don't remember actually which library we use, but it's also free and used widely to make this statistic graphs. For example, maybe something was deployed into the development environment. We see that failing test cases are rising, then the fix.
So we have always about 400 to 500.
Well, if the credit cards are not working, then it's total fuck up.
Does that mean you don't mock any services or data or anything? Use the real services to test?
No. For example, we don't mock the PayPal. So if PayPal is down, then we can't test the PayPal. We don't mock it.
Why not? Why not?
Let me think. Maybe we don't have resources for that, because you have to make the same code. I mean, you have to copy the interface of the provider. I mean, the partner. And well, basically, maybe we don't have resources. It will be good if we have, but we don't. So we depend on the partners. But sometimes we just miss some errors come up.
Looking over 500 pages each time.
Well, basically, we have a team of 12 QA, and if something is broken, then everyone, if some big fuck up comes, then everyone knows, because you can't test anything, because you need the credit and stuff for doing the testing. Blue is the manual test cases. So manual failed and the passed one. Manual is when we either can't automate, but we should also do the steps manually, and then we can mark, okay, this test passed. So around 100 tests should be done manually.
So is this manual a failure or a pass?
Blue one is we didn't execute. So
it's not manual.
it's just not executed. Usually we do manual testing during regression. So when we put our development code into the test environment and test before we're going to live, then all the manual test cases should be executed and marked.
But how often do you release your code?
Well, recently we had changes. We moved to Agile, and now we ship code once a month. Well, 4 weeks. So 2 weeks are for development, 1 week for regression, 1 week for deploying the code to live.
1 week.
Yeah. Come on, Skype is big. One database takes much time.
Do it manual. CD by CD.
Actually, the PHP code deployment takes like this, but DB takes much time. Because
It means that you're actually deploying for several days.
well, not we have separate team for that.
Yes, of course, but
Well, yeah,
in general.
yes, because for example, you have to you want to add some column to, for example, credit cards table, and we have, I don't know, millions or billions of rows there. That will take much time. Or you have some kind of data maintainer that will filter out, change something, and update. And you can't do it like in one execution. It takes time.
Haven't you thought about going over to NoSQL solution?
No what?
NoSQL solution.
No SQL?
Yeah.
That's the question not for me, actually. We have our DB gurus. I don't know. But actually, I think we have a pretty good database solutions in Skype. Because everything works.
You like PostgreSQL?
I personally, well, for me it's the same as Postgres or Oracle because I'm not a developer. For me it's all the same. I know how to write SQL commands. It's not a problem. And it's free. That's good. Yeah. For example, recently I made also the parser for ourselves that goes to different servers and aggregates the exceptions. So here we can see like the count of errors on the server side. But that's just an example. Here you can also select the environment. Now we have the servers, like you can see which errors come per server. But that's just an example of how a framework can look like. This is, once again, that's not an ideal. I have thoughts of how it can be developed further, but this all takes time. But for a new, for guys who are new to automation, I'll just recommend to sit down, think about the architecture, choose the tools, choose the languages, and just start coding. With time, you will understand what you need, what you don't. But those like the features that are really helpful for us, for like my team. So here are the links that you can check out what Yandex and Google does. They talk about their own custom frameworks, what problems did they have, how they evolved. And that's basically it.
Where's the link to Skype?
Sorry, I didn't go to one conference where I should have presented our framework. Maybe in the future. At the moment, we don't have a source, public, I would say, performance where we talk about our framework. But actually, we have lots of frameworks, different frameworks in Skype. I'm just talking about one which we use in web team. But basically, it can be used in every team. But every team like thinks about their own solutions.
Do you feel that this automated testing is useful? You feel that this is paying back? I mean, automated testing versus
You mean
manual testing.
Come on, kill me. We have so many test cases to execute, and we have only 1 week for regression, and we should be sure that everything is working.
Oh, yes, I want to say that the main place where to use the automated testing are the regression tests.
Well, basically, yeah.
Most of
Why do you need the automated test during development? If you only have lots of combinations, and then you can make a script that will just inject lots of data. We use the automation for regression tests.
Yes,
We develop something, we make tests for that, so that next time we don't have to retest it.
Yes, I understand. So very many problems are actually failing regression tests.
I didn't understand the question. Does it help us or not?
Yes, basically I am asking this.
Okay, it saves a lot of time for us. A lot of time. But once again, we have a stable project, which is, 6 or 7 years old now, since the beginning of the Skype. So we're just updating new test cases there. If it's a project for 1 year, maybe the automation doesn't pay off. That can be also true. So we always have to think you will spend much time on developing framework, developing the test cases, and if you just execute a couple of times, there's no point. But I mean, I didn't want to talk about those when or how to use the automation. That's other topic.
So, what is actually missing in the existing testing framework?
The Windows is missing, email notifications are missing. Let's see.
This is essentially what you get when you integrate with continuous integration. I mean, you take
We don't have continuous integration integrated with our framework. That's something that I want to see in the future.
Yeah, but
Maybe not. Maybe
no way most of the things you have done because you can't get that free. So it's integration. I mean, you take build bot and it has all this.
Yeah, but how will you execute the test cases, the functional test cases, not the unit ones?
Yeah, inside. I mean, according to the. For example.
We're using Hudson for JUnit tests.
But you can use Hudson.
Yeah, I know we can, but we don't. It's not. The framework itself is evolving. In the future, I think we will be doing that, but at the moment it's not.
Okay, I think the question was why spend time developing framework when you can just take two things and integrate them? Well, actually, how to integrate.
So you were saying that there is already solutions
Well,
in the world.
Hudson plus Selenium is essentially, I think, more or less what you have. Well,
Probably the question is when you evaluated the requirements, have you considered the Hudson plus Selenium combo or whatever?
Well, I didn't work with Hudson before, so maybe Hudson is the best tool, but I didn't work with it. So maybe it is, but I would, for example, the test case priority. How will Hudson execute the test cases on the server? Those kind of things. I don't know the technical things. I know that there is no out-of-the-box solution for that. For how will it store the artifacts, and after that can we search the test case?
You can. I know for sure that you can run like several Amazon instances with Hudson, so you basically start up 20 of those.
Okay, what if I want to use the Debian server? I don't want to store my code outside.
I think it's possible, yeah.
not a problem.
Okay, we can talk about it off topic in the break. Do you have other questions?
Yes, I have. Do you have different teams and people for writing the application code and the test code, or do the same people do the
Test code, but test code in unit functions.
tests, or this function test basically, or the regression test?
This is written by testers.
Not by
Not
developers.
developers. If you want. It's written by this should get and the but
Commercial.
frameworks.
All the stuff. Like, why nobody creates the stuff that you do as open source?
Well, look at the video that is inside, and then you maybe can understand.
Yeah, I searched for this Google stuff. It was like the latest post was 2007 or something.
Yeah. Well, after that, I haven't found
Maybe
anything.
they're not using it anymore.
Well, I haven't seen anything that's saying that they are using some Hudson either.
No, they're using Billboard actually.
Well,
I mean, this is
Still back in the 2007, they said that they built custom framework with execution stuff and specific Ajax functionality on top of the Selenium. Also, the Yandex, they took the Selenium and built around it a pretty good framework. They have 50 servers that are running in parallel and lots of test executions per day. Also, big company. Yeah.
I have one question. How is it to start implementing these tests? For example, we have normal tester who is not developer and enter the Skype, and what are the main steps he should start from?
I mean, building the framework?
And building the tests. What?
You mean you want a test case?
Yes. What a person should know at first, should learn at first, start building tests.
First of all, he should learn how to be a tester. That's another topic. I mean, I don't want to cover how should we test, how we should construct test cases. I know. Think about, make a scenario, record the scenario, refactor it, make functions, so that you don't duplicate your code over and over again. For example, the login.
It wasn't a question. The question is not in how to test, but what should I learn to start
Coding. I mean, scripting.
Scripting, yes.
Well,
I should learn some language.
well, you
You can,
depends. Okay, you should learn some programming language which is used in your team. If you don't have a team, then make one and decide and decide on which language will you use: Java, C++, C# or Python, and then learn how to use this language.
So basically, this automated tester must be a developer.
Well, well, you all did Java programming in university, right?
Sorry?
You all did Java programming in university.
Yes.
No, come on, you're a programmer now. Come on, the writing test cases is not so hard.
No, I didn't say that this is hard. I asked that this automated test writer must be actually a little bit programmed.
Yes, that's my opinion also. Not a bit, that's my opinion. Yes, he should be pretty close to being developer. So it's like a developer for testing.
Do you test afterwards the developers have written and implemented the functionality in the code?
Which one? The application or the framework? Application is what we...
Application, yeah.
Application is this functional system under test. Okay, manually.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. During the development phase, we test everything manually, and then when development ends, well, by that time we already make automated tests, so that during regression we don't have to spend time on it. So each new functionality should be covered by automated tests. That's the rule. As much as possible, so that you in the future you won't have to spend time on testing that manually. And
I have one more question. If you're talking about Agile, then and if Skype uses Agile, then that means you are using TDD or BDD or some kind of methodics, and also you are using these automated tests. Does it mean that you have double testing?
well, basically, when we had the Agile training, the coach said, "Kill the unit tests." No, we didn't kill the coach. Basically, sometimes it is double programming, because we move the business logic into the functional tests and the unit tests also. Yes, sometimes we do double. For example, recently I've started to write test cases so that I don't create data, but I search for data in the database, so-called random users picking. And with those users I do actions. And this this gives me corner cases which I might not think of. We have different currencies with different cards. Those historical uses, which usually in life we have lots of, because we have lots of customers. You just during the development you just don't think of every possible combination. By this random picking, you can get different uses.
Like a question. Do you have something like Chaos 90 monkey running around? You know, the one in Netflix, which essentially randomly drops all kinds of services and sees how the application performs?
No. Yes?
I understand you test a web application for payments and it uses a database.
Yes.
Your database. How do you manage the database to reset it to an initial state for testing?
Okay. So first of all, database is not erased. The QA one, the development one, database is erased each day, and on top of it, new development code is put. But the test database is never deleted. The test data stays there forever. Because in life we have even more test data. That's kind of coming to be a big problem soon, because the database is already very, very big. But until now we don't delete the data.
What happens if you have some errors? What will corrupt the data, this data?
That's why we have development environment. So in development environment is like a playground. You can do whatever you like. And when everything is stable, we move to the QA.
So you test tests, right?
Tests? I don't understand.
You test tests. Did you just say that?
No.
That you test your tests if they screw something up with the read data.
No. Well, even the developers can screw up the data in database. So basically, we just if we inject something, then it should be controlled. I mean, in the development environment already, that this data that we inject is correct one. So by the time we go to the regression, we already have this like stable tests. I know tests. I know, but we just maintain them. Of course, we should.
Yes. We do.
Kas on veel küsimusi?
How many bugs you have introduced in your custom testing framework?
Well, we don't do the counting.
I mean, how you can be confident that the bug is on the program or in the application you are testing? Yeah?
I would say, how can we be sure if everything works that it doesn't have bugs?
I mean, how you can be sure that the test failed because the application has a failure, not because of the bug in your custom framework?
Okay. Well, the framework itself doesn't. It just executes. So bug in the test case itself. Basically, manually investigate what's the reason for failure.
Okay.
It doesn't report a bug automatically yet. But actually, our programmers have already been working on making Skype bot that will monitor the servers, and if some major error comes, then it will just make a notification in the chat. Like check that server, we have this exception.
You don't have this now?
No.
From Nagu, it exists already, I think.
I don't know. Not in our framework.
Did Microsoft change your testing routine?
Not yet.
But in the future.
We'll see.
Internet Explorer as well.
Aga igatahes tahaks öelda aitäh Antonile ja meil on sulle väike kinnitus ka Jeremy Clarksoni raamat, kui raske ikka olla saab.